When I think of George Kambosos, the image that is forever going to be etched in my mind was when he knocked down Teofimo with that beautiful right hand and then later on went on to snatch up all the belts. That was such a great performance. It was such an upset. It was just such a way to just come in and upset the apple cart that I looked at and it's like, man, every time I think about this dude, that's the image that comes to my mind and that's the first thing that I think about. So it doesn't matter what happens with the rest of his career, win this fight, lose this fight, look good, look bad, whatever it is. He earned that. And I think a lot of people probably feel that same way about it. But when we're looking at upcoming fights, we can't allow just beautiful, great standout moments in the past to sway our opinion. So when I think about this one coming up, I also got to think about those fights with Devin Haney and then the fight with Maxie Hughes. And he had a rough go in those ones. We know what Devin Haney did. Devin Haney went out there and smashed him twice. And we saw what he did with Maxie Hughes. I guess the best way to put it is that was a very uninspiring performance or a very unimpressive type performance. So going into this one, I got to ask myself the question. If we were to take out that fight with Teofimo Lopez, if we were just to pop that one out of his career and we were able to look at the rest of it, would it change the way that you felt about Kambosos? Would it change the way that you looked at him? Would you feel that he was a little bit different of a fighter, a little bit less of a fighter? Just that one fight. We take that one fight out. What are we talking about now? And I think you can make the argument either way. I think you can make the argument that it changes the perception of him and makes him a little bit less, and then maybe that it doesn't, right? So hear me out. On the one hand, you can make the argument that styles make fights. It's always been a true statement. It's always going to be a true statement. You look at Devin Haney, that is 100% the worst matchup that you can make for George Kambosos. You've got a guy who's longer, and you've got a guy who's more athletically gifted. So he's got faster hands, he's got faster feet, he's younger, he's stronger, he's longer, he's got this phenomenal jab. Like, dude, that's everything wrong for George Kambosos, right? Because here's the thing about him. I hate to say this, I'm not knocking the guy, but he's not special in any area. When you look at George, he's not special in any area. That being said, he's not a bum in any area either, right? Everything he's got, in my opinion, is either average or above average. Okay, he doesn't have world-class speed, world-class power, world-class footwork, world-class defense or head movement or this ridiculous work rate because he's got this phenomenal stamina. That's not the story we do. But I'll tell you what he does better than a lot of people. And I'll tell you where he excels, and I'll tell you what he needs to get going. He's got very good timing, and he's got very good reaction speed. Okay? He's a reactive fighter. He wants to come in there and he wants to be able to get the distance and get the timing, start to get his counters off. Once he gets his counters off, that's when he starts to build his offense on top of it. Once he gets the counters going, that's when he can start to put together his proactive movements or when he starts to come out there and try to take the lead. Consequently, if he doesn't get those counters going, if he doesn't get his timing right, nothing else really seems to work. And that's the problem that we saw with Devin Haney. He was never able to get that going, right? Because Devin Haney was faster and Devin Haney was longer. There were so many times in that fight when we saw Devin Haney lead with the jab, avoid the counter, and then get in clinch. Kambosos didn't have an answer for that. He couldn't answer that. Ryan Garcia had an answer for that, okay? It was Ryan Garcia had the faster hands. So Ryan Garcia was able to see that jab coming, and he was able to go out and throw that counter left hook before Devin was able to initiate his defensive action. And then we saw how that one developed, right? But really, that was the key. We saw it right away in the first round. He was able to get that counter left hook off. George Kambosos threw the counter left hook. George Kambosos threw the overhand right. He was attempting to counter. Little times here and there, he was able to get it off. But for the most part, we saw that he wasn't able to get rid of that jab. Now we go and we flip it and we talk about Maxie Hughes. Now, Maxie Hughes didn't win the fight, but Maxie Hughes gave him a lot of trouble, okay? And he gave him trouble through footwork. Really good footwork, boxing from the outside, using that southpaw stance to create little angles, get the left hand off, just make it difficult. Again, didn't allow Kambosos to get his timing, didn't allow him to get his distance, didn't allow him to really truly get his counters off and try and take control of the fight in the way in which he wanted. So you look at both those guys got horrible style matchups for George. Now here's the problem. Everything that you saw Maxie Hughes do, Lomachenko does better. Lomachenko was going to be able to go out there and do what Devin Haney did to beat George Kambosos, right? That's not really on the table. I think the fight that we look at is the fight with Maxie Hughes. Not only is he southpaw, but you look at the footwork and the angles and the way he tries to close the distance and then come in. Lomachenko does all of that, but he does it better and he does a whole lot more. This is going to be a rough fight for George Kambosos, man. And is it fair? I mean, if we look at it, we're talking about George and we really can say that he fought two world-class guys. He fought Teofimo Lopez and he fought Devin Haney. He beat Lopez, got smoked by Haney twice. Now he's going to be stepping up and fighting another world-class fighter in Vasily Lomachenko. If he comes out here and he gets smoked, If he gets knocked out in the 8th round, if he loses like 11 out of the 12 rounds or something like that, this may be the last time that we see George compete at the world-class level. If we're being perfectly honest with each other, we're going to have seen him come out there. If he gets smoked in this fight, we're going to have seen him come out there and get smashed twice by Devin Haney, turn in the uninspiring performance against Maxie Hughes, and then get smoked by Vasily Lomachenko. What are you going to do after that one, man? I mean, I get it, the fact that dude's super popular in Australia and he generates a bunch of buzz, and that's why people are going over there to fight him, because they're going to make more money and it's going to be bigger than coming over here and fighting in Las Vegas and things like that. But if he's going out there turning in performances like this against these guys, we might see him step back a level. Now, I'm not really one to go out there yet and proclaim that this dude is a one-hit wonder. I don't want to go out there and just say that everything that he's done other than that Teofimo fight was what he truly is, and then that thing, you know, who he truly is and how he truly fights, and that truly has a better representation of him as a fighter. And then we look at the fight with Teo, and that was just kind of this one standout, odd performance, but odd in a really good way, right? Stand out in a really good way. We're just like all the stars aligned, and everything that you see Kambosos do, he just did it the absolute best level for him on that night, and that's why we saw that great performance. But it's not a reflection of who he normally is. It's not a reflection of what we typically see from him. You know, I'm not willing to say that, but I will say that this fight's going to be huge. What he does in this fight is going to be really telling, because now we're looking at a lot of fights over the spans of some years. We're going to really see how he prepares for it, how he looks. This is going to be interesting to kind of be a watermark. So let me know what you guys think. I mean, I've always been a fan of Kambosos. I'm not coming on here trying to knock him. I'm not coming on here trying to talk crazy, but I got to call it like it is. And this fight's going to be huge for him after the performances that we've seen against Devin Haney and Maxie Hughes. He's got a lot to prove, man. He's got a lot of people out there who are saying that he shouldn't have as big of a name as he did. And they're trying to say that what happened with Teofimo was just a standout shock, and it was more about what Teofimo didn't bring that night. We heard about the injury with his throat or his esophagus or whatever it was, and you know, he wasn't able to breathe and compete and all these kinds of things. Man, George needs to shut down all that talk by coming in and performing. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think he has it in him? Do you think he's going to be able to show up against Loma? Was it just bad style matchups against Haney and Maxie Hughes? Let me know.